Vanakkam. So I think the progress that Tamil Nadu has done over the last decades is impressive, being the second largest economy in the country. The 1 trillion journey, this meeting itself is also a testament to the ambition and the desire to commit oneself to it. When I look at it, I think the human capital is the asset that was earlier spoken. A lot of it is capability and the human capital that we have. We start there. And always let's leverage the core capability or the core competency, which is our good human capital, added to how can we adopt technology even better. Every country in the world, it's kind of a race because everyone wants to attract investment. And how we can differentiate using the human capital is to look at segments. Start, like Preetaji also mentioned, we have a unique position in healthcare. Chennai cluster and Tamil Nadu is a respected cluster, thanks to Apollo and to the other organizations here. But even now, there's a lot of morbidity in the country, not just in Tamil Nadu, all over the country. Technology can be a big factor that allows you to leapfrog in the care continuum. Korea, I worked for 3 years in Korea. There, the adoption of, let's say, minimally invasive therapies or surgery is 90-95%. So technology adoption can be better, not just in medical devices, across segments. And I would also say that the marketing aspect, the state, how do we market to the CEOs, the global CEOs, to the global boards? That's also an area where industry and the government can work together. Identifying key stakeholders of the top companies in the world, the top Fortune 50 companies, and to see what are the organizations where we can provide home, where we can provide, create jobs from those companies, a value add for the companies. So the big takeaway message I want to leave here is that how do we play a bigger job in the global value chain? Because the India market is still very small, especially for health. Medical devices, we'll talk more about it in the question sessions also. But how do we aspire to play a much bigger role in the global value chain? And we have all the recipes for success. And I think we can certainly market in a more effective, even more ambitious way, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, I'll come to Mr. Shanmugam, yes, because everybody would like to hear you. Mr. Christopher, maybe have your comments first, and then we go to Mr. Shanmugam.
Thank you. As you know that Tamil Nadu is the second largest economy in terms of
in the global
contributing through manufacturing. And having said that, we will be continue to expected to generate and contribute for the 5 trillion also.
I'll come to Mr.
One of the sector, going by the mantra that make in India, make for the world, that aerospace tightly fits into that. And the case of aerospace, we know very well that Boeing or Airbus, or for that matter, Gulfstream and so many other companies, they all have universally the vendors from all over the world. If we can produce from Tamil Nadu for automobile industry, good many parts and being utilized globally, why not for this aerospace industry? Of course, in the case of aerospace industry, we have to be careful in terms of reliability as well as traceability. But for that, there is no problem. Likewise, in the case of military, we again have got a demanding requirements, but high margin, but a low volume, where the sheer low volume makes most of the industries to become global. And in case we enter into that, I think we can not only be make in India, but also make for the world. Last but not the least is that I would like to say that we must encash the available potential in terms of automobile industry, particularly with the changeover to the electric vehicles. We have enough potential which can be utilized in the military sector. Last but not the least is semiconductor fab is one of the sunrising sectors which must be looked into, and we must give a thrust on that. Thank you.
Mr. Shanmugam.
Last but not the least is that I would like to say that we must encash the available potential.
I think I have spoken in the inaugural address itself. I am very optimistic. I think we have a great potential to perform, and we, from the government side, we have been working on that for quite some time. In fact, when we were talking about, say, for example, textile, The moment the government of India said that we want to capture the industries which is shifting from China, we said we offer. Land is available in 2 places we offered, and we want to focus on a technical textile. When they said defense corridor, we said we are ready. And when food processing industry is telling us Tamil Nadu can do something, we have put up nearly some 10-15 places we have identified, and we are working on that. So like that, each and every sector, the government is ready to perform, and you have to tell us what is required in order to push the state forward. You tell us what government has to do. We are ready to do it.
Well, that's very, very encouraging. I'd like to come to Josh. Josh, one of the areas, in fact, 2 areas which are big drains on the national forex. One is electronics, and the second is oil. And of course, oil, the government is trying whatever it can to move towards renewables. As far as electronics is concerned, what is it that we can do to replicate the success of Taiwan in electronics manufacturing? How do we move forward from here? Which are big drains on the national forex. One is electronics, and the second is oil.
Rajiv, I mean, that's a great question. See, Taiwan is, I've been in this particular part of the supply chain for about 25 years, and electronics has moved, multiple continents. But Taiwan has been a consistent performer all through these years. So me and Mr. Gopal talk about this. During the pandemic, I think we spent more time talking about, Taiwan's resiliency in this space and the leadership. It continues to be a reference, not just in semiconductor, but display and a lot of high tech, high precision mechanics, electromechanics. All of these things are great components into the, any end product, which we have. And with the kind of convergence we are seeing across industry verticals, be it automotive, be it medical, the pervasive of electronics is just so massive. Now, what Taiwan has done is remain consistent. The policy has been consistent. Number 2, they have invested. Always, we look at semiconductor, they're always investing ahead, 3-5 years ahead, right? Now, has India done enough? I think the good news is that we have restarted the journey. I think we have started it many times. I think 80s, I think we made an attempt, with the TVs. In the late 90s, we made another start. In mid 2000s, we had another start. At least I was part of this Nokia exercise at the time. But I feel that now the consistency with which India is approaching is what makes me optimistic. And I'm completely with Mr. Shanmugam sir about being optimistic in this area. Because 2015, when Make in India was launched, the government came and asked us. So I had the privilege of crafting the face manufacturing program for mobiles, which has now been replicated for other sort of ICT verticals. And last year, we did the PLI scheme. And the great news is that the progressive states like Tamil Nadu have stepped into filling the gaps in these policies, supporting EMC2 policy, allowing investors to come in here. So I think all of these things are key. One challenge I think we have to do, we have to find a way to overcome, is how to execute this capital. Getting FDI is great, but you have to be able to execute it efficiently. And that can be done in Tamil Nadu. It's not just approvals, but it's also the talent, the kind of local talent which is needed to really execute it, to really make it productive, so that we are delivering the goods. So I think we are on the right track.
Okay, Mr. Betty, if I may bring you in here, how do we drive Industry 4.0? and learn from other economies. What is it that you could tell us about Tamil Nadu, specifically India, and lessons from the world economies? What are the best lessons that we could bring in to Tamil Nadu and India? Okay.
Absolutely, and let me maybe start by mentioning that what we're observing is that Industry 4.0, which has, of course, a huge potential to transform manufacturing and value chains end to end, it has two main ingredients. I mean, the first one is technology, the second one is people. And on the technology front, what we have seen is most successful is companies and economies taking a very practical approach. And what I mean by a very practical approach is looking at how to leverage Industry 4.0 technologies, which are the combination of 3D printing, AI, industrial IoT, not as standalone solutions, but in combination to address very specific production or business problems. And for that, I believe that it's essential to take a very sectoral approach, because the production challenges or the challenges that we need to overcome to scale up production and drive a productivity revolution change from sector to sector. But again, it's moving away from looking at technologies as standalones and individual components and taking a comprehensive approach and a solutions-driven approach to the practical adoption of new solutions that will most likely lead to the development of very unique type of use cases, very unique type of applications that are going to be addressing the specific needs of each geography and each sector within those geographies. And then back to the second component, which is people, I think that massive efforts are and will be required going forward when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. I mean, if you look at the current Industry 4.0 context now, we already have a skills gaps. So on the one hand, we have globally a large workforce that is currently looking for employment, but on the other hand, we are not finding the right talents that will help us drive the Industry 4.0 revolution. And therefore, what is needed is for the private sector, the public sector, working in close collaboration with the academia to develop new ways of training and retraining, to first of all identify what the skills needs are, but also finding ways to provide and enable continuous on-the-job training. And maybe to conclude, I think that what is exciting about Industry 4.0, and again will depend on each sector how far we can go, but is that it provides the ability not just to transform production lines and drive productivity, but to enable new business models. And it bridges back with the concept of the digital economy that one of the panelists mentioned before, is the ability to top up product with services, to provide new services. All that is enabled by Industry 4.0, and we are seeing a lot happening and emerging from the manufacturing space that can drive economic growth or boost economic growth.
Right. Staying with manufacturing, Dr. Christopher, we know that Government of India is going to be procuring defense equipment worth almost 4 lakh crore in the coming years, and government has specifically banned many imports of defense equipment. So, given this opportunity, given this enormous opportunity, how is it that Tamil Nadu can place itself as a destination for defense manufacturing?
Yeah. Fortunately, Tamil Nadu and the UP has got a unique sort of privilege to have the industry corridor, particularly defense industrial corridor. That is a forum by which that we can demand and request MOD to give more privileges, whatever they have given in terms of some weightage or advantage. For the offset obligations are okay, but we can also go back and ask in a very specific way that certain privilege to be given. Let's take 3 different approaches. One is long-term, mid-term, and a short-term. Long-term is to have government organizations like R&D laboratories. You take, for instance, Karnataka has got about 10 odd laboratories are there from DRDO. Likewise, Telangana, but we don't have so many at all. In Tamil Nadu, only 1 we have. Of course, 2 more small labs are there, but they are not really into the account when compared to the other states. So we can ask, or for that matter, public sectors, if you take defense public sectors, again, these 2 states really have most of them. So why not we keep knocking at the door of MOD that these are the long-term policies to the government of to the Tamil Nadu state should be provided. That must be one of the approach from the state. The next one is in the midterm. While we are working on the long-term projects like this, which may take 10 years, 15 years, because the policy is to be made, we can always ask for a projects like, for instance, Netra, which is nothing but the indigenous AVAX. For a production, it is almost ready. It is accepted, it is flying, it is proven its worth. Now it has to be manufactured. So group of industries can join together from Tamil Nadu, should go. But then the representation should be from the government, then only will get such a project. Otherwise they will not give a sanction so easily from a large project like this. And anyway, Mr. Shanmugam is here, and he was kind enough to give a letter, writing letters to both to the chief as well as to the DRDO secretary, the present secretary, asking for such a project. So that's a good move, and we must pursue it more evidently. The third one is for us immediate solution. Huge amount of fund is there in the revenue account for the parts and manufacturing of so many parts which is really now obsolete, or the companies would like to charge higher. So those things to have, Tamil Nadu government again should have a periodical, almost every month there must be interaction meeting, and thereby the industry will get benefit. So the policies decision in all these things, Tamil Nadu government should initiate, and we will flourish.
It's very interesting. Still staying with manufacturing before we come to services and funding. Mr. Krishnan, MedTech, another area where Tamil Nadu already has enormous presence. How do you see the MedTech sector for manufacturing from the point of view of the state of Tamil Nadu? How do you ensure? How can we ensure that it does get the kind of traction that will get us to that $1 trillion mark?
Thank you. So I think the first couple of facts. One is that the local market in India is still of a small size. So in order to operate at scale, we need to look at a strategy of in India for the world. So that's why collaborations with larger organizations to see how we can tap into at least the emerging markets with our inherent advantages of labor, cost and productivity. That is one thing. The second is, if you look at healthcare in India, we have good surgeons, physicians, and also hospital facilities. Diagnostic is a challenge, and the pathway management is also a challenge. So industry, manufacturing, it also look at areas of diagnostics, because significant unmet need is there across India, and Tamil Nadu, with this good, well-developed medical infrastructure, can be a laboratory to pilot some of these innovative diagnostic related tools, which is low capital, possibly intensive, but high impact in the overall care continuum. So I would say having an outcome-based model where you recognize outcomes, you incentivize outcomes, access to funding, more softer funding availability, hand-holding, and also there are medical device parks coming in multiple states. My message is that, let's not duplicate, let's complement each other. If something is being done in AP or Telangana or UP or Gujarat, let's complement each other so that the testing facilities are there across these parks. You attract ancillary manufacturers. Sometimes it is easy to attract ancillary manufacturers because they will be quite cost conscious. Good to attract them first, then the bigger manufacturers would come. So I would say it's a holistic strategy, but look at from a point of view of our unique strength and how we can position.
Sure. Vivek, Tamil Nadu is not necessarily known for pharma manufacturing, and your company has really been a trailblazer in that sense. What really is it that is required to get pharma manufacturing, and particularly, leveraging the PLI scheme of the government so that, Tamil Nadu can start producing pharma products out of here? Vivek?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the right amount of talent, I'm speaking from experience, that there's a huge amount of talent that is available, but it's no longer here. But these are people both in R&D and manufacturing, quality control and all of that. These are people that have moved to other states or overseas, and it's quite easy to bring them back. right? They all have this affinity towards home, whether it is from home or by themselves, they all do want to at some point come back. And with this PLI scheme and also this move towards self-sufficiency, I think it's in the right direction. But we don't need to replicate what China did, because whatever China did has happened over a 30, 40-year period. And that's not something that is easy also to replicate within the next whatever time that we target. So, and the industry as a whole is moving towards cleaner chemistry. And we don't have to really depend on very highly polluting industrial parks or anything to try and bring back self-sufficiency. So I think whatever steps that are being taken, especially the industrial park in Manalur and other places, I certainly think that's a step in the right direction. But as Josh was saying, I think it's very important to understand how the execution is going to take place and provide the right kind of platform. Again, I repeat that the steps are being taken in the right direction, but a little more from both sides need to happen for the execution to complete. It takes two hands to clap, we all know that, but at least we're all moving in a synergistic manner today.
Okay, coming to services, Ms. Reddy, if I may ask you, you heard everybody on the panel talk about what we could do to encourage manufacturing. Where are we on the human capital front? And especially since you run a very, very large service portfolio, how do we ensure that the services sector, especially human capital, what are the platforms that can be built to ensure that human capital is available not just for services sector, but also for the manufacturing sector in the state?
So I'm being a bit candid here. We're using the archaic legacy norms which the British handed us in terms of the education and skilling. So just now, I think some of the policies have changed, but it's almost impossible. Let's say, you want to start an engineering college or a medical school or a skilling. The amount of licenses, the certifications, the land requirement, the infrastructure requirement, the timings, it makes it almost impossible for us to turn around and skill so many people. And if you take the healthcare sector, we actually need to double the number of doctors, triple the number of nurses, and have 5 times the number of allied healthcare professionals. We just don't have the infrastructure to do it, because the investment into a good, high-quality medical teaching institution is about 400 to 500 crores. And then you don't really recover it, so it becomes CSR budgets, which is fine. But but if we want to upscale, it's almost impossible. So then there's a scarcity mentality. The same thing is happening with multiple other sectors. So can we change the way we think? And then on the other side, we have fantastic institute, an industry like Byju's. Look what they have done. But then that again is digital. So can we really have a mid-path to skill people, to equip them to be able to get into manufacturing, any of the technologies required in healthcare, in services, other service industries. So I think we need to think a bit differently. We need to change the norms. And I'm not saying it's not happening, but I don't think it's happening at a pace where it's required to meet the kind of needs. And also, we can actually skill for the rest of the world. Everybody knows that wherever you go in the world, there are Indian nurses and Indian doctors. And that's happening with healthcare. Engineers, the best engineers or the best teachers at MIT or Harvard or engineering schools are coming from India. So I don't know if we're training and if we're churning out enough to really meet the economic aspirations which we really want to do. So I see a challenge and a gap there.
Mr. Srinivasan, funding and financing, and of course also you mentioned SAS. SAS has happened by itself in the state of Tamil Nadu, and what is it that the state can do, for instance, to encourage the greater adoption and of greater expanse of this as funding, SAS initiatives that is already panning out across the state.
Thank you, Rajiv. Let me just build upon what all my colleagues have said. We started off with government initiative from Dr. Christopher. We talked about build for the world. We talked about skills. We talked about talent coming from outside, and we talked about the Taiwan initiative that Josh and I love to speak about with each other all the time, right? If I take about this digital economy, which is where Tamil Nadu must have a $200 billion digital economy, and it is most likely to happen in the state because there is talent. Most of it will happen because of private initiative and private capital. So it's not a state-sponsored thing. But that having been said, I think there are three things we should look at. First is, I think we have to understand that scale requires failure. We go on the basis of tappu nadakka kodade, nalladhu nadakalana koda tappu nadakodade. That mindset is very embedded in the Tamil entrepreneur. And therefore, I think acceptance that we can make some mistakes as a philosophical level, I think is very important if we want scale to happen, which is where our friends in Telangana revel in that actually. So let me take three areas where we should experiment and accept failure as a consequence. First is stop being shy about private universities. You need talent, you need private initiative in universities. After enormous churn, just to give 2 licenses for private universities, or 3 if I don't get the number right, when neighboring states have given 10, will create a tremendous amount of talent supply for the digital economy. The second is the point that Josh spoke about. We build industrial parks. So the short answer to everything is get SIPCOT to build an industrial park, which I think is fantastic. But there is one more thing we need to do, and that is to create a triad park, which combines, like Taiwan, an academic private university, a manufacturing enterprise from Josh, along with a digital research and IT services kind of IIT research park thrown in. This triad in Taiwan, which everybody knows now as Hsinchu Research Park, is an exemplary thing that Taiwan has done, which I think the state only can sponsor, in the words of Dr. Christopher. Only a state can sponsor this because it requires Universities Act to change, it requires all of the land, it requires sponsorship. I think these are the 2 things I would encourage the state to do in a big way. Allow education, let a million flowers bloom. Doesn't matter if some private university messes up somewhere, it's okay. The bigger benefit will come. Second is create this kind of sponsor these research parks where there's manufacturing, academia and research together. And lastly, go easy on social infrastructure. If you want young men and women to come from outside, as Mr. Parthiban does, to build for the world as he wants, I think you need to give a more lighter touch on social infrastructure. I think in the last 1 year, this government has done a fantastic job of rising up and seizing the PLI-driven boom which came in the COVID era. We also need to therefore do the same thing for social infrastructure. So my recommendations are very simple. Private universities, 3-way campuses of manufacturing, research and education to co-located and collaborating. And third is go a bit easy on social infrastructure.
Very interesting. Mr. Shanmugam, any takeaways from this?
Incidentally, for quite some time, I have been, from the bureaucrat side, we have been thinking that to facilitate the private universities, right now we have given and third one is in the process. The land is a big constraint because our act says 100 contiguous acre is required. So we are, in fact, I suggested to Industries Department also, identify about 1,000, 1,500 acres. It is like any industrial estate kind of a thing. So let us sponsor any international reputed universities if they want to put up a private university here. And we can allot them these 100, 105 acres or 10 acres so that they need not search for the place, first of all, because it's a very big problem for them to come and identify site and purchase land and all these things. Our idea is to create like, Cambridge or Oxford in a kind of an education district where 5, 6 such universities, private universities are existing. So that Tamil Nadu can become not only a manufacturing hub, it can be education hub also. Where people from India, from all other states, even from other countries, they can come and get educated. So ultimately, one thing we should all realize, that it is the research and development. It is going to take the country up. If you simply copy and manufacture, you will always remain behind. So it is ultimately the education system, as Kobal Srinivasan is telling, that manufacturing, research and education has to coexist so that we are always a leader. So that idea we have floated to the industries department. I hope we will work on that. If that happens, somewhere near Chennai, we can establish that kind of a big center, education center, with 5-6 universities and doing a wonderful research and education of a top class and international standard. It's possible and we can do that. On this digital economy, Tamil Nadu, I think Chennai, we have already a lot of manpower, and it's a very talented manpower. And we have been working on the concept of a FinTech city. After Honorable Chief Minister visited UK and US, when he came back, then this idea floated that why don't we put up a dedicated center for these finance and technology companies, so that they can tap the resources available here. Like, Hyderabad, they have this finance district. Like that, we can also do that. With a lot of difficulties, we have identified about some 250 acres, very near to Mahendra city, and it is right on the national highways, near to airport. And the preliminary reports, the feasibility and detailed project report has been prepared. It is in the final stage of bidding out for inviting the bidder. If that comes through, our idea is you create a kind of an integrated city there, where all these finance and technology companies, they can put up their centers there and use the human resources available in Tamil Nadu, which is having a wonderful resource. So much of talented people available here, they can be used. And that will be, I am sure that it is in the process, it will come through. It's not a dream, but in another 1 year time, you will see the center coming up. And third is on the skill building. Madam was talking about the resource, this trained manpower. We are partnering with the private. In fact, this idea, I think about 3 years back, we floated this idea. Let us not have the training center under the government control. It should be with the private. But we are only a facilitator. So we said, we will provide land, we will provide facilities, even sanction money for building, and this can be designed and constructed by the private partners, and they can run the training. It's like, top class, the trainers training and high-end training program. 5 sectors we identified, like, transport, logistic, finance, one is going on, and this health sector, and this manufacturing also. Engineering and manufacturing, 5 sectors we have identified, and in 4 sectors we have already put the MOU, civil engineering also, constructions also. So like Ramco has taken up construction, and Kaveri Hospital has taken up for the healthcare. It is not one, it is again a consortium. So the consortium of these sectoral people will come together. We will provide them the facilities, and they will develop. In some of them, they have done it on their own. Land also, they did not take it from government. But the point is that only private sector can move forward and faster, so that the training needs can be captured immediately, and it can be imported to the, according to the requirements. That is why we said that you do it and we will support. So this can continue. It is a model. It is not end. Any kind of training requirements, any gap is available. Private sector can always come forward, and the government is ready to partner with you for facilitating this clearance and all kinds of things. And you will be the best expert to identify the gap, and you can give the training programs. And this defense corridor also, The land we have been procured, in fact, Dharmaburi, they have already procured about 2,500 acres of land. And in Salem, we have already that steel plant land, about 1,500 acres, we want to take it back. So Coimbatore also some work is going on for getting land. Here policy is ready, incentive package is ready, land is also, we are working on it's ready. It is the manufacturers, they have to come forward. And of course, government has to make some breakthrough. Sometime, we have to work extra hard with the government of India to bring some of the people in the initial stage. Once that ecosystem develops, then it will become automatic. So in all these, healthcare, in which state so many medical colleges are there? Which state so many nursing schools are there? So it is Tamil Nadu, we have, every district is having a medical college. And if it is required in paramedical side also, some facilities are required. In fact, we have large number of nursing colleges, and our output is much more than what we could absorb. And that is being absorbed in the private sector. Chennai and Tamil Nadu has already emerged as one of the biggest hub of medical facilities. And we are providing, in fact, we are again a pioneer in many things, like, insurance you take, health insurance. Government is providing insurance for government servants, retired people, and the common public. Common public, 1.5 crore families are covered under the insurance scheme for the life-saving healthcare procedures. So we are doing a lot of things, a lot of infrastructure, private and government has come up, and we can serve the whole world. In fact, the facilities, we have to tell others that, here it is available at a much cheaper rate and at a very, very high quality services are offered. I am sure that it will, in the coming years, it will emerge in such a big way, because that is another area which provides so much of employment opportunities. So we are working in all these things, and I am sure what sir has said, and we are at it. And we will be, I think Muruganandam takes it forward. And in the coming years, you will see a kind of an Oxford campus or Cambridge campus in Chennai also. And we will be able to generate a lot of high talent. Thank you.
I'm sure that'll gladden the hearts of all the panelists and the industrialists present here.